You know that feeling, right? When you're on a project and it just feels like it's doomed to be late no matter what you do? Well, today we're going to dig into a seriously powerful technique that's designed to stop that from ever happening again.
It's kind of like a line of dominoes, you know? One tiny task gets delayed and bam, it kicks off this massive chain reaction that just bulldozes your entire schedule. It's a super common and super frustrating problem. I bet you've seen this happen. A single tiny hiccup, maybe a supplier is late, or a bit of code just takes a little longer than you thought. And all of a sudden, your final deadline is completely at risk. But why? Why does this happen even on projects that seem really well planned? Well, the answer is surprisingly simple. It's because we often treat every task like it's equally important. But the reality is, only a handful of them actually have the power to sink the entire ship. The real key is knowing which tasks those are. And that, right there, is where the critical path method, or CPM, comes into play. You can think of it like finding the spine of your project, that core sequence of tasks that holds everything else up. Okay, so what is this thing technically? CPM is a method for figuring out the absolutely essential tasks that define the bare minimum timeline for your project. It's really all about separating the must-do from the could-do in your schedule. And that leads us to the main idea here, the critical path itself. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, kind of like a paradox. The critical path is the longest chain of connected tasks, but it actually determines the shortest possible time to finish the project. Why? Because you simply cannot finish the whole thing any faster than that longest, unbreakable chain. So how in the world do we find this path? It's not just guesswork. It's a really elegant little algorithm that works in two distinct steps, or passes. This is really the engine that makes the whole thing work. It all boils down to two pretty straightforward steps. First, we're going to move forward through the project timeline from start to finish. And then we're going to turn around and work our way backward from the finish line. Let's see what each of these passes actually does. So the forward pass is all about being optimistic. It asks the question, okay, what is the absolute soonest we can possibly start and finish every single task? Then the backward pass gets a bit more, let's say, realistic. It starts from your final deadline and asks, all right, what's the absolute latest each task can start and finish before it blows up the entire schedule? What these two passes give us are four really important dates for every task: the earliest start and finish, and the latest start and finish. And the difference between those earliest and latest times? Well, that's where the real magic happens. Yeah, that gap between the earliest and latest dates reveals something called slack. And trust me, understanding slack is the absolute key to figuring out which tasks are the ones that truly matter. You see, it turns out not all tasks are created equal. Some of them, the non-critical ones, have a little bit of built-in flexibility, some wiggle room. But other tasks, they're on a knife's edge. Any delay, even just an hour, pushes the entire project back. Those are your critical path tasks. And that wiggle room we've been talking about? Well, it has a name. It's called slack, or sometimes you'll hear it called float. It's the exact measurement of how long you can delay a task before it starts that dreaded domino effect on your final deadline. Which, of course, brings us to the most important question of all. If the critical path is made up of those tasks where any delay messes up the whole project, then how much flexibility, how much slack do those tasks actually have? Zero. Zilch. Absolutely none. And this is it. This is the big aha moment of CPM. The critical path is the chain of tasks where the earliest you can start is exactly the same as the latest you can start. There is literally zero room for error. And that is what makes them critical. Now, understanding all this isn't just some neat trick for a textbook, right? Applying the critical path method has some seriously powerful, real-world benefits that can completely transform how you manage pretty much anything. Once you've identified that critical path, you suddenly have this crystal clear schedule. It acts like an early warning system, highlighting the tasks you have to protect at all costs. This lets you make better decisions to focus your team's energy where it matters most, while also knowing exactly which other tasks have that handy little bit of flexibility. So, when you boil it all down, what the critical path method really does is take the overwhelming chaos of a complex project and, well, it just transforms it into pure, focused clarity. It tells you exactly where to look and what to defend to get your project done on time. So I'll leave you with this. The next time you're looking at a big challenge, could be a huge project at work, could be a personal goal, ask yourself, What are the steps that have to happen in order, and which ones have zero slack? What's my critical path? Because finding it just might be the single most important key to your success.